Okay, this is part 4B. It's the second part of this lecture. I had to break it apart so I could fit these um, files on YouTube. So I'm going to try to talk a little bit faster during this and hopefully get through this. Um, we're going to move on to the next chart, figure 1.12. These are educational trends. Um, There's definitely the standards movement, which you are all familiar with. And there's been a drive in our country as a result of No Child Left Behind to have teachers use technologies in ways that will help teachers and students pass the state mandated tests to comply with No Child Left Behind that show that students are actually learning the standards. And again, there's some articles there that you might want to read. There's reliance on the internet and on distance education. And on page 22, it says that this is a societal trend, um, the distance education. Um, in places that are actually remote, our students may actually have an increased access to the internet because of distance education. So if you had some advanced placement high school students, but not enough to warrant the hiring of a teacher, then they could take some courses online. So this is very advantageous. Get some high quality courses and degrees using distance education. And pardon this pause, but I'm trying to sync my two lectures here. Okay, the third educational trend is the debate over directed versus inquiry-based or constructivist instruction methods. And we talked about this a little bit in our first class. Um, they give you a little paragraph there to kind of explain the difference in that. We'll move on now to the cultural equity trends. And these are listed on page 22. They're the digital divide, gender equity, and special needs. These are the three factors. Digital divide was a phrase coined by Lloyd Morissette, who was a former president of the Markle Foundation, and it refers to a discrepancy in access to technology resources among socioeconomic groups. It's the single greatest factor determining access is that economic status, although race and gender may also play a role depending on the type of technology. So our students that are less economically fortunate don't have as great access to technology as those from wealthier families do. And there's also the discrepancy of ability that students that may be in the Title I or chapter programs or have special needs, they tend to benefit from assistive technology, which we'll talk about later. Um, but they also usually do not get to use computers for anything other than remediation. So that adds to the digital divide also. Technology remains dominated by males and certain ethnic groups, and studies show that when the African Americans and Hispanic minorities use computers less and enter careers in math and science and technology areas at lower rates. On page 23, the first paragraph there, as I'm going to read this. As Molnar pointed out in his landmark 1978 article, The Next Great Crisis in American Education, Computer Literacy. The power of technology is a two-edged sword, especially for education. While it presents obvious potential for changing education and empowering teachers and students, technology also may further divide members of our society along socioeconomic, ethnic, and cultural lines and widen the gender gap. Teachers will lead the struggle to make sure technology use promotes rather than conflicts with the goals of a democratic society. And I know there's some of you out there thinking, oh great, one more thing to add to my plate. Um, the last graph is at the top of page 23 there. It's figure 1.14 and it highlights the current legal ethical trends shaping the use of technology, like viruses and hacking, the new plagiarism, which we talked a little bit about before, privacy and safety, copyright, illegal downloads, software piracy. These are all issues shaping current technology. I want you to look on page 24 at the top there. There's the top 10 issues shaping today's technology uses in education. And then I want you to read the rest of this chapter, which is the emerging trends. I think I got a little ahead of my slides there. There's the legal and ethical, the viruses, the plagiarism, and so on. And here are the emerging trends slide. We've got the radio frequency identification, wireless connectivity, merged technology, handheld devices, high-speed communications, artificial intelligence, and virtual systems. So finish the rest of this chapter on your own. There's a good chart on page 26 on emerging technology trends and implications for education. And there's also a good part for the implications for technology for new teachers and students. And this begins on page 27. And it talks about how we now have very flexible learning environments. I think this is great for scaffolding and differentiating instruction, that you can do some things on computers for some students, and it maybe allows you to pull aside those students that need more one-on-one instruction. We've got adaptable assessment options, one of which you're going to find out about really soon. We've got reliance on distance learning, support for people with disability, the ISTE nets for students, teachers, and administrators. And then definitely read the section on electronic portfolios that starts on page 27, because you will be developing one in this class. We now move on to the last slide, which is the self-assessment. I want you to go on to the companion website at this address. Click on Chapter 1, Self-Assessment Questions. Chapter 1 will be across the top. And then down the side, click on Self-Assessment Questions and the short answer one. And you read the question, write the answer, have the opportunity of looking in your textbook or wherever else you want, and compose an answer. And then complete this and send it to me at this address, church.pc@windstream.net. Not the WebCT one, but this address here. If you've set it up, it should already be set up that way. If you have trouble, then copy the questions and copy the answers and bring it to me as a paper copy if you can't do that. So that's the end of this part 4B lecture.